Hi, I'm Ryan Meyer, and in this video I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the camera work that was done in Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet. Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet is a game where a player flies a UFO through an alien world, and we really wanted to make it seem like the player was watching a cartoon. So what this means is a super minimalist UI and a lot of smooth camera work. Now, what we wanted to avoid was a bunch of text on the screen to really give the cartoon-like feel. Now, this actually presented a big challenge because since everything's in a foreign world, the player might get confused. What's part of the background and what's something that I should actually be paying attention to? Now, we can actually solve this a lot through the camera work. We can help guide the player's eye on the screen to actually have them look at something that's important. And one of the game objects we have is a point of interest. So normally the camera would follow the camera target, which most always is the player ship, the UFO. But when we near a point of interest, we take camera influence away from the camera target and move it towards the center of the point of interest. In this example here, as a player nears these tubes, the camera control goes to that puzzle, and the player might say, okay, this is probably something I need to solve, instead of just kind of looking at the background. So here we go. The point of interest now has 100% control of the camera, and as we move away, control is given back towards the ship. So as we move in, nice and smooth transitions, make it seem like a cartoon. Now, we can move around however we want, but look, all the control is still on the point of interest. So let me turn on a little bit of debugging work, see if we can't get a better feel for what's going on. So we have two radii on the point of interest. The outer one begins to take control away from the camera target, and the inner one is when we have 100% control on the point of interest. Let me take a moment to say that I really like working with visual debugging in scenarios like this, because when you're trying to get something to feel just right, it's a lot easier than reading print statements or working with breakpoints. And as an added bonus, it makes you look super busy when the boss walks by. Keep that one. So yeah, this point of interest, as we move in, you kind of see that the point of interest now has control of the camera here. Nice and smooth transitions. And how we're moving the camera is every frame we kind of calculate a vector of where it should be. The point of interest calculates its own level of influence, and then the smart camera gives an average between who has most control and gives a position where that the camera needs to be this frame. We don't actually have a velocity on the camera itself, because we need to have specific control where it is. We don't want to have guesses of what it should overshoot. If we had a velocity control, it could possibly overshoot its target and get into bad scenarios. Here's another example. I'm moving towards a checkpoint. It's kind of subtle but effective as a player flies by. Maybe I should look at this thing. Okay, that's a checkpoint. So that kind of really helps, pinpoint what's important in this game. Let me turn off some of the debugging so you can kind of see without all this stuff on the screen. Nice and smooth, nice and subtle. Yep. So let's move on to the next sequence of the camera control, which is velocity input. So here I've turned on a couple more things. You see the yellow circle, which is mapped directly to the left stick input, and the yellow box, which is the velocity input. It's where the camera wants to be. Again, since we're going for this cartoon-like feel, we're tied up on the ship, so that means that the player could possibly outrun its own headlights, run into enemies that are just off the screen. The player's going to feel cheated. So one of the ways we can solve this is by moving the camera in the direction that the player is moving, or its velocity, so we can kind of give a bit of lead on the camera itself. So as we move to the left here, to the right, the camera will move to the right. As we move to the left, the camera will move to the left. This is especially important when we're going up and down. Since the ratio is 16:9, we have a lot of play to the left and right. But when we're going up and down, there's really not that much room to work with, so we have to help the player in that sense. So without it off, you can kind of see the camera's moving ahead of the ship as it moves. It also gives a sense of velocity. Okay, I'm really cooking now when the camera's moving, the ship's kind of going off center of the screen, which is the added bonus. Now, another thing, when you combine this with a point of interest, the influence of the velocity lead goes to zero. The same way that the same percentage influence that the point of interest has is the same effectiveness that the velocity input has. See, as I leave the point of interest, now the velocity input goes back to full. full effectiveness, full power. So we take it away. Again, nice and smooth. And the reason we do this is because we want to avoid any jumping or snapping of the camera. We want to make the player not notice that any of this is really happening. Now what's next is right stick input. Now with this on, there's a couple more debug stuff on the screen. You'll see the red box, which is the aiming influence. Let me pull out my gun. The right stick, which is the right stick influence. And the blue box is the average between the velocity influence and the aiming influence. So that's where the desired camera position is going to be. And the green box is the average right stick influence. Now we want to avoid is actually immediately moving the red box as we spin the gun around, spin the right stick around. Because if we did that, we'd have lots of crazy camera movement. It would look like we hired the camera guy from The Bourne Identity, like this. See, as we move like this, the camera's going to stay relatively in the center. So that's exactly what we want. So for our purposes, 100 frames worth of right stick input will be added into an average, and then that's where we're going to be moving our aiming influence. See, as we move with the right stick, the green square slowly catches up, and that's where we're putting our right stick. And so in this case, if we're moving, shooting, we pop off a shot in a different direction, we don't crazily move the right stick camera. So again, nice and smooth. Another thing we can do is keep the velocity moving one way and shoot the other way. So if something was chasing us, we wouldn't cut off, the vision of it. So we can actually see what's coming behind us if we're moving one way and shooting another way. The average, see that blue box, is still kind of near the center of the screen. And here's kind of just a shot of everything working together. It gets kind of mesmerizing when you have all the debug information on. It's kind of cool just to play with this alone. Anyway, again, with the right stick influence, it also goes to 0 once you go inside a point of interest, and back to full power when you leave the point of interest. Now, something else that's important is boundary control. See this border here? We don't want, since we're working with a UI that actually follows the ship, we don't want this to ever leave the screen, so we kind of force the camera to keep the camera target in the square, or the player ship in the square, because if we leave that, some of the UI elements go off the top of the screen. This is important for a couple reasons. One, obviously gameplay, but two, this will fail certification for Xbox. So obviously that's not going to be a good thing. So we have this nice screen border here. We cross it, force the camera to go keep the camera target on screen, and always move that. So if we're going kind of fast, we might in some cases cross this border, but it's ensured to be in the safe zone just in case. So another thing that's cool is we can take camera influence away from this player ship and move it on any camera target we want. Let me move to another level here so we can get an example of that. Something else too is a cinematic camera. We have the ability to move to a cinematic camera and back again to the smart camera, nice and smooth. As we grab a weapon, I'll show you an example of the cinematic camera. Here again, some point of interest, and grab this and zoom in. No control of the smart camera, and slowly give control back to the smart camera. But one of the examples we use when we follow another camera target is missile gates. We show you an example of us doing that. We turn off some of this stuff so we can get a clear shot. Again, all we do for the camera work is just pass in a new camera target, and the camera code will take care of the rest. And again, this missile is really tied up on the screen, so we need to make sure we have a good lead, so we can see the tunnel ahead of us. So we use the same camera work, same camera code, just applied to a different target. We can go down this tunnel nice and easy. We do one more pass here with some debug on. Now you can really see what's happening with the code. You see my right stick inputs following the ship, and the velocity inputs ahead of the missile. Bang. Pretty cool stuff. So that's the basics of the camera system used in Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet. Thank you for watching.